Haroon Meer, thank you so much for joining us today. We are very, very happy to have you with us at DevConf.
Thanks for having me.
Now, we are very excited to have you. You are founder of Thinkst. You are a contributor to so many publications for our community, for devs in general. You're also a very, very popular speaker. Tell us why, in an age where we can do everything online, including attend any kind of software conference, why do you think conferences like DevConf are so important to us?
That's an interesting question. And I'm not even so secretly pretty much a hermit, definitely an introvert. And so you'd think I'd eschew the in-person conferences. But historically, they've worked out really well for us. Like when we were really small as a company in Gauteng, we started doing in-person conferences. And I think there's two big benefits that I really get out of it. The one is I've almost never attended an in-person conference without going away with some idea for something I wanted to play with or something that seemed interesting, even if it wasn't completely what the speaker was talking about. There's something about the time away from your office and the way away from your desk that kind of gives ideas a chance to bloom, and those environments really bring it out of you. And we've met great people over the years at conferences like this. And one of the things I talk about, one of the things that I worry about for South Africa is if we don't aim high enough, we'll constantly calibrate just by the people next to us who are all in the same situation as us. And these conferences allow you to aim higher and aim differently. It allows you, to see that there's more going on sometimes. And I think that's super important for us in South Africa right now.
I love that. I love that. I think, and DevConf is places where you'll often see people who have a very full dance card, so to speak. Right. They know exactly where they're going. And suddenly you'll be like, dude, shouldn't you be in room 5? And they're like, yeah, but I'm having a really great conversation here and I don't want to interrupt this. So you'll often find that, that people are making those kinds of connections and having those kinds of conversations where they actually just don't, they just don't want to end up in a room because they're having those kinds of.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Great convos. So talking of DevConf, I'm very excited to see what you're going to be talking about. Tell us a little bit about your keynote address at DevConf. What will you be covering on the day in Cape Town as well as in Pretoria?
So mainly, I'm starting with a question. And the question is why we don't see great software companies in South Africa yet. And there's lots of really easy answers that get thrown around. And I think most of them are wrong. And so mostly I'm saying, hey, we think we're smart. Our ComSci curriculum is the same as overseas curriculum. We have the same textbooks and use the same computers and use the same AWS. So where's our Apple, Netflix, YouTube, Spotify? Like, why don't we see these happening? And I've got a few theories on it, but mainly, my talk is to kind of encourage people. I think that stuff is a second order effect from people just making more stuff. Like, I think more people should make stuff and put it out there and see where it goes. And it's always tough when you talk about the big names, but like if you consider a Zuckerberg starting Facebook in his dorm room, it wasn't the first thing he publicly put out. Like before that, he had put out FaceMesh, and before that, he had put out some music software. And even like way back, like you had a Bill Gates, but before he built Microsoft, he built Trafodata. And what you see from these people is a constant putting out of stuff, like building stuff and putting it out. And in South Africa, we've gotten very used to using the world's technology and not putting stuff out on our own. And so mainly my talk is to try to encourage more of that, to build stuff and put it out there.
So as long as this isn't giving away too much of your talk,
sure.
What do you think South African software developers have that is unique? What is that special sauce that we have in SA? Why should we be starting our own software dev companies?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I'll tell you, there's a fairy tale answer that I could give that says how we are these special snowflakes that could do great things. But I see that one slightly differently. I think in the last few years, the world's gotten smaller. And so someone can sit in South Africa and build software that gets sold to the world. But I also think someone could sit in Nepal or sit in Nigeria and do the same. And I think South Africa runs the risk right now that if we don't do that stuff, we get relegated permanently to almost second-class technical citizens. Because the world still needs this class of technical stuff like data capturers or people who just like code factories that'll just convert X to Y. But people actually building meaningful companies, solving important problems, I think we're in danger of not taking up that challenge. And I think we do have some benefits. I think we've got solid engineering schools. I think we can learn from every. I think in a very weird way, we're not as spoiled as some of our international friends. But I think we're not as spoiled yet. Like if you look at Silicon Valley, they always talk about how Silicon Valley runs on immigrants and the children of immigrants. Like it's one of the secret sources, because what happens is you have these immigrants come in and they really want to prove themselves, or the children of immigrants, and they work really hard. And they end up building these amazing companies. And one of the things we're in danger of in South Africa and in lots of the ex-colonies of the world is we start getting spoiled before we start getting those victories. So we get used to big offices with bean bags and fancy art on the walls. And effectively, that becomes a way to keep us in the second-class tech careers, where we do tech support for the big companies, but never make these big companies ourselves.
I think we're going to have some interesting chats at the speakers' dinners.
Sounds good.
So you obviously, as CEO of Thinkst, I mean, as the founder of Thinkst, you work within a company that operates on continents all over the world, and you can live anywhere you would want to, but you're based in Cape Town, which for me says quite a lot about your belief in the South African software development ecosystem. Why are you living in what is today a very freezing Cape Town?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, for one thing, like we've always loved South Africa. Like our core team is proudly South African, and we think, and it sounds super trite, so it's not something we'll often say, but we do believe that part of the reason we don't have this many software companies in South Africa is because we don't see others in the space succeeding. And so there's a part where we feel like actually it's kind of our responsibility to be here and try to win internationally and show others that it can be done, take internships so that kids can come in, spend some time with us, see that you can live here and sell to tech companies internationally. So in part, we're hoping we can be part of the example so that, like, if you can see it, you can be it. And we're hoping that stuff works that way.
I love that. You've obviously had a little bit of time to have a look at the program. Are there any other talks which have sparked your interest for DevConf this year? Are there any that you're specifically looking forward to?
There's a few that are interesting. There's one in particular. There's a speaker talking about a few lines of code that crashed a rocket. And in part it overlaps with like I've got a strong security background, but the speaker, Ava, is talking about looking at the flight crash investigation and trying to pull out lessons that we can learn for software quality assurance. And Yeah, like it's something we've looked into in the past. There's a few people looking into it, but I think there's interesting stuff that we should be taking from flight crash analysis, for post security breaches, for post dev failures or problems. So yeah, I'm keen to see how that talk goes.
I think it's been a great shift. One of the things which I think makes DevConf unique is that, yes, there's a very strong focus on software dev, but it's the entire SDLC.
Right.
So
Right.
there's had a great talk on root cause analysis, which I think Craig Reese did. And,
Right.
to bring QA into it and to bring the entire software dev lifecycle into the process of actually just
Right.
bringing great software and getting
Yep.
the great software out, which is the point of this. It's not just
Yep.
about the lines of code, it's about the entire process.
Yeah, exactly right. No, it sounds like it should be a great talk.
Well, Haroon, we really look forward to having you. Thank you so much for your time today and throughout this process. And we're looking forward to having you at DevConf in Cape Town as well as in Pretoria next week.
Super look forward to it. Thanks.